On November 17, 1978, 4 employees were abducted from a Burger Chef restaurant in Speedway, Indiana, and were later killed. Investigators have never been able to determine who committed the crimes. It's been 41 years since that tragic day, and the case, known as the Burger Chef murders, still remains unsolved. The victims of the Burger Chef murders are 20-year-old Jane Freet, 16-year-old Daniel Davis, 18-year-old Ruth Shelton, and 16-year-old Mark Flemons. Ruth, Mark, Daniel, and Jane were all working that evening. Jane was the assistant manager on duty that night. All of them were scheduled to work for an hour or so after closing time for the typical cleanup and prep work for the next morning's shift. It is believed that everything was going as it should up until around midnight. It is theorized at this time one of the boys opened the back door to take the trash out for the evening, and this is when the suspects forced their way into the restaurant. Later that evening, another employee who wasn't scheduled to work that evening had stopped by the restaurant. When this employee arrived, he found the building to be empty and unlocked, so he called the Speedway Police Department. Upon arrival, the officers did not suspect foul play. Instead, they thought that the employees had taken off with some of the cash from the registers. Approximately $581 was taken from the registers. It was believed that the employees had just taken off on the company dime to party. The only thing was, the girls had left behind their purses and jackets. It was a cold, rainy night that evening, so it was highly unlikely that the girls would leave without their coats. And what was even harder to believe is that they would leave their purses behind. However, the police did not find it suspicious, and no pictures were taken at the Burger Chef restaurant that evening. The manager was called and the building was locked up. The next morning, the employees on the next shift came in and cleaned up the work that wasn't finished the night before, and business went on as usual at the Burger Chef location. At this point, the families of the Burger Chef employees who had worked the previous evening had reported their children missing. It was when the reports came in that the kids were still missing that the police started to suspect foul play. They returned to the Burger Chef location at 5725 Crawfordsville Road in Speedway, Indiana. The police reconstructed the scene to the best of their ability. Any critical forensic evidence would have been erased by the cleaning that had taken place. That same day, Jane Freet's vehicle was found. She drove a Chevy Vega, which was found a few blocks from the Speedway Police Department. The vehicle was not treated as a crime scene. No forensic evidence was taken. It was noted that the driver's side door was locked, but the passenger side door was not. 2 days later, on Sunday, November the 19th, the bodies of the 4 victims were found. They were approximately 20 miles from the Burger Chef location. The victims were found in a wooded area in Johnson County. The bodies were found in 3 separate locations in the wooded area. 2 of the individuals, Ruth Ellen Shelton and Daniel Davis, were found shot. A short distance from them was Jane Freet. She had been stabbed multiple times. The blade of the knife had broken off in her chest. A short distance away from them was Mark Flemons. He had been beaten with what appeared to have been a chain. His injuries alone did not cause his death. Mark had drowned in his own blood when he fell to the ground. It is believed that he had tried running away from his assailants and ran into a tree. It was believed if he had fell in the other direction so that the blood hadn't caused him to choke, that he may have survived. Other mistakes were made at the scene. Some officers at the scene claimed that bodies had been moved before the forensic technicians or coroner had arrived. Officers also failed to rope off the area, and department vehicles had been driven all over the area. This could have destroyed evidence of vehicle tracks. With 3 departments on scene, the Speedway Police, the Indiana State Police, and the Johnson County Sheriff's Department, the scene was hectic and haphazard at best. One officer was quoted as saying, "Too many chiefs and not enough Indians." The same day the 4 victims were found, Burger Chef held a press conference. The company offered a $25,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest. When the quality of the work of the Speedway Police Department came into question, the police chief at the time stated that it would be inappropriate for him to question the work of his officers. He admitted to not being present at either scene, at the Burger Chef or the field where the bodies were found. The chief also claimed that allowing the business to reopen without collecting evidence was the right decision. All of the departments gave statements claiming to be cooperating with the other, but anonymous officers came forward to say the lack of communication was sending the investigation into a tailspin. Ken York is a retired detective turned private eye. He was on the case from the beginning. He didn't have anything nice to say about the way the scenes were handled during the numerous interviews he has given. He believes that all scenes should be treated as if the worst-case scenarios are at hand. A witness came forward stating that on November 17th, the evening of the kidnapping, he had seen 2 individuals in the Burger Chef parking lot at about 10 o'clock in the evening. At the time, it didn't seem suspicious until the bodies were found. He described the men as being fair-haired and the other as having a beard. Based on the witness description, the state police had sketches made. When the sketches were released to the public, it didn't generate any new leads. The police then had 3D clay models made up. It is believed that this crime escalated from a robbery to murder because one of the employees recognized the perpetrators. Police speculate that the employee was Jane Freet. She had only been working at the Speedway location for a short period of time. Before that, she had worked at the Plainfield location. It's been suggested that one of the assailants was probably a regular at the Plainfield restaurant. Over the years, many suspects have been vetted. In 1978, the same year as the murders, there was a report that a man was bragging in a Greenwood bar that he had committed the murders. When he was questioned by police, he passed a polygraph. The man did give up the names of individuals that had been involved in a fast food robbery group. Ken York was one of the officers that helped look for the suspects that were named by the man from the bar. The search led him to Franklin, Indiana. The officers found a man that fit the description of the bearded man. He didn't have an alibi, but this did not constitute enough evidence to take him in. The man, who had a beard, was threatened with a lineup, this resulting in him shaving his beard. York had known the man for 5 years, and he had never shaved. The bearded man's next-door neighbor was another suspect, in York's opinion. This suspect later served time on a charge related to a shotgun, thus earning himself the nickname Shotgun. The third suspect fit the description of the fair-haired man. He also served time on unrelated charges. Both of these suspects were offered a deal if they would give up information in the Burger Chef murders, but they held their ground, saying that they knew nothing about the case. Ken York stated that he believes that 3 individuals were involved in the murders and have already been questioned and let go on lack of evidence. He believes that the bearded suspect from earlier played a part in the slayings. This suspect has passed away due to a heart attack. The fair-haired man and Shotgun have never been charged. This case has not been solved and is considered active. It doesn't have a happy ending, but there is still hope. In January 2015, a man by the name of Jake Query discovered that Mark Flemons did not have a headstone, so he took to Twitter, and he and his followers raised enough money to purchase a headstone for Mark. During the summer of 2018, the community, as well as family and friends of the victims, raised money to plant 4 red oak trees in their honor. Each tree is adorned with a plaque with a short biography of one of the victims. The original monetary goal was surpassed within 24 hours. With the extra funds, a marble bench was installed and dedicated to their family and friends. On November 10, 2018, just 1 week before the 40th anniversary, a small dedication ceremony for their family and friends was held at the memorial site at Leonard Park in Speedway, Indiana. I think it's important to remember that they were more than just victims. They were somebody's friend, daughter, sister, brother. Jane was described as a happy person who was always ready to tell or laugh at a joke. She'd been involved with her high school's yearbook staff, concert band, choir, and gymnastics, and several more activities. Ruth Ellen was a junior at Northwest High School. She was an honors student and was hoping to get into a good college. She had planned to earn a degree in the emerging field of computer science. Mark was the youngest of 7 children and was raised in a devout Jehovah's Witness household. He was succeeding as a sophomore at Speedway High School. He was also a friendly boy who took pride in his appearance. Daniel was a junior at Decatur Central High School. He loved to laugh and tell jokes and have a good time. He had a passion for photography and was also fascinated with aviation and planned to enlist in the U.S. Air Force after graduation. I've always been fascinated with this case due to the fact how close the victims were found to the area where I lived, and it just wasn't something that happened in Johnson County. It was really scary. I was in elementary school at the time, and it was right around the same time as the Jonestown incident with Jim Jones and his cult. So it was really scary. It was all over the newspapers, the television, and the adults were talking about it, of course. And I knew where the location was. It was on a really dark kind of country road at the time. And there weren't very many houses up in the area where they were found. There's more houses in that area now, but at the time there weren't very many. I've got a couple pictures here that my niece took in the area. As you can see, that there are a lot of trees in the area. I know in some articles it's been described as a field. I know there's a field behind where they were found, but in this actual area there are a lot of trees. If you would like more information on this case, there was a book published in July 2019 by author Julie Young. It is titled The Burger Chef Murders in Indiana, and I'll put a link to that in the description. There's also a podcast that discusses this case in great detail, much more so than this video, and gives you alternate theories, alternate suspects. It goes into great detail about other suspects. It's called 3C Podcast, True Crime in the Circle City. It's based in Indiana. Even though this case remains unsolved, the Indiana State Police are still investigating and looking for those responsible. If you have any information regarding the Burger Chef murders, please contact them at 317-899-8577. Thanks for watching. I've always